Identity lies at the heart of human interaction, shaping how we recognize, trust, and connect with one another. From the earliest tokens and handwritten documents to today's digital fingerprints and cryptographic signatures, the systems we use to establish identity have evolved alongside society itself. Modern identity systems operate at the intersection of science and technology, harnessing principles from biology, mathematics, and computer science to answer a fundamental question: who are you? The landscape is vast. A patchwork of passports, biometric databases, digital wallets, and authentication algorithms, each designed to verify, protect, and sometimes challenge our sense of self. As digital interactions become more prevalent, the reliability and security of identity systems are increasingly critical. Understanding how these systems function and the scientific foundations that underpin them is essential for navigating a world where identity is both a powerful tool and a potential vulnerability. The journey begins with the very concept of identity itself. Long before the era of passwords, pixels, and machine-scanned fingerprints, the question, "Who are you?" was answered in ways as old as humanity itself. The earliest forms of identity were not written, coded, or stored in any ledger but displayed on the body. For over 100,000 years, people have signaled who they are through physical features, possessions, and marks. Tattoos and jewelry, scars and paint, all serving as silent yet powerful assertions of identity, status, and belonging within a group. These markers told stories of kinship, allegiance, or achievement, their meanings understood by those who shared the social codes of their time. As human societies grew more complex, the need to distinguish individuals became more pressing. Early civilizations developed new tools for identification, moving from memory and physical recognition to more formalized systems. In Babylon, around 3800 before Christ, the first censuses were recorded, cataloging people and their roles in the community. The Romans later adopted similar practices, using written records to keep track of their vast and diverse population. These early efforts laid the groundwork for a lasting relationship between identity and record-keeping, a relationship that would evolve alongside the growth of states, technology, and the demands of social organization. History brought further innovations. By the 15th century, as travel became more common and regional boundaries less rigid, the need to prove one's identity across borders emerged. In 1414, King Henry V of England issued what is widely recognized as one of the earliest passports, documents meant to guarantee the holder's safe passage and confirm their identity to foreign officials. Over time, the idea of official, government-issued identification took root, gradually replacing informal systems of recognition based on memory and reputation. The 19th century marked a turning point. The advent of photography introduced photo-based identity documents, transforming how individuals could be reliably identified. Now, a person's likeness could be captured and attached to a piece of paper, a passport, a license, or a certificate, serving as a portable proxy for physical presence. This was a significant shift. Identity began to be something that could be standardized, issued, and inspected, rather than simply observed or remembered. Science also entered the picture. The challenge of distinguishing individuals with certainty led to the development of biometric techniques, ways of measuring and analyzing unique physical traits. Among these, fingerprinting stands out as one of the most enduring and widely used methods. The practice of using fingerprints for identification has roots reaching back to about 1000 before Christ in China and Babylon, but it was not until the 17th and 19th centuries that the scientific study of fingerprints began in earnest. By the late 1800s, fingerprints were being used in criminal investigations, and soon after, they became the gold standard for law enforcement worldwide. No two fingerprints have ever been found alike, a fact that continues to underpin their use as forensic evidence to this day. Before fingerprints became commonplace, the Bertillon system, a method of anthropometric measurement developed in 19th century France, sought to catalog individuals based on the size and proportions of their bodies. But fingerprints, with their uniqueness and reliability, soon supplanted this approach. In England, fingerprinting began in 1858 and rapidly gained prominence, eventually becoming the standard for personal identification. Biometric recognition, however, is not limited to fingerprints. The science of identity recognition has explored a variety of traits, including facial features and even the geometry of the ear. From a biological perspective, the ability to recognize faces is a fundamental human process, a categorization function that allows us to distinguish one individual from another, even among large groups. This natural faculty has inspired modern technologies that attempt to replicate the brain's ability to identify and differentiate, laying the groundwork for today's facial recognition systems. Yet, identity is more than just a physical or biological phenomenon. It is shaped by interaction with the surrounding environment and influenced by psychological constructs such as interest and belonging. In the realm of science identity, for example, the development of one's sense of self as a science person is molded by ongoing dialogue between the individual and their social context. This interplay highlights a broader truth. Identity is as much a product of society and culture as it is of biology or documentation. As societies entered the digital age, the nature of identity underwent another profound transformation. When the internet was first created, it lacked any built-in system for verifying who was who. This absence led to a proliferation of fragmented, siloed accounts, each requiring its own username and password. Early digital identity was a patchwork, and as the number of online services grew, so did the complexity and risk. Passwords became a central yet vulnerable marker of digital identity, their limitations exposed by security breaches and the difficulty of remembering an ever-growing list of credentials. In response, new solutions emerged. Federated identity systems allowed people to use a single set of credentials across multiple platforms, streamlining the user experience but introducing trade-offs around privacy and autonomy. Social login using an account from a major provider like Google or Facebook to access other services became common, but not all providers were suitable for every context. Sensitive sectors such as healthcare or government often required more secure and specialized forms of digital identification. The evolution continued, with digital identities gradually mimicking their physical counterparts. Attributes and credentials once issued on paper, such as driver's licenses or employee badges, took digital form, managed by organizations or, increasingly, large technology companies. Today, digital identity is understood as a set of attributes and credentials that represent a person or even a machine in the digital world. These digital identities underpin authentication and authorization in information systems, forming the backbone of secure access to everything from bank accounts to public services. Advancements in technology have not stopped at passwords and usernames. Two-factor authentication, biometrics such as fingerprint or facial recognition, and even blockchain-based decentralized identity systems have entered the scene. Each new development seeks to balance security, privacy, and user control, an ongoing challenge as the digital landscape grows ever more complex. At the heart of these developments lie the scientific principles of identity recognition and management. Modern identity systems are intricate architectures composed of several fundamental components. Policy defines the rules, who is allowed access, under what conditions, and with what credentials. Orchestration coordinates the integration of specialized services, ensuring that the right processes are triggered at the right time. Execution handles the practical management of identity, creating, updating, and deleting records, managing authentication sessions, and enforcing rules. Data underpins every aspect, serving as the foundation upon which all identity-related decisions are made. Identity management systems, or IMS, bring together processes and technologies to manage and secure user identities. Their key components include identification, determining who someone is, authentication, proving they are who they claim, authorization, defining what they can do, and auditing, tracking actions for accountability. In organizations, identity and access management, IAM, systems build on these principles, adding features such as single sign-on, directory services, and compliance reporting. Together, these systems form the backbone of organizational security, ensuring that the right people have the right access at the right time. Automation has become increasingly important, with modern identity management systems designed to align with legal requirements and reduce the burden on administrators. The architecture of these systems is framed around the same core components: policy, orchestration, execution, and data, with orchestration providing the flexibility to integrate a wide range of specialized services and policy ensuring that rules are clear and actionable. The evolution of identity management has mirrored broader shifts in technology and society. Where once identity was managed in centralized systems, such as a government issuing identification cards or a company maintaining employee records, new models have emerged. Federated identity allows for cooperation between organizations, reducing redundancy and improving user experience. More recently, blockchain-based decentralized architectures have been proposed, offering the promise of greater user control and security. However, challenges remain, particularly around interoperability and the need for robust security measures. Throughout this long journey, from ancient tattoos to digital credentials, the foundations of identity systems have remained remarkably consistent. At their core, these systems seek to answer a simple but profound question: how do we know that someone is who they claim to be? The tools and technologies have changed, shaped by the needs and possibilities of each era, but the underlying challenge persists. Modern digital identity is now a complex, multifaceted construct. It encompasses not just people but machines, services, and even organizations, each represented by a unique set of attributes and credentials in the digital world. The systems that manage these identities are essential, not only for security and efficiency, but for enabling trust in a society that increasingly relies on digital interactions. The story of identity is, in many ways, a story of adaptation. From the earliest days, when identity was etched on skin or woven into jewelry, to today's sophisticated digital platforms, each step has reflected the changing demands of society, the advance of technology, and the enduring need for recognition and trust. As we look to the future, the foundations laid by centuries of innovation continue to support new forms of identity, ones that are more secure, more user-controlled, and more deeply integrated into the fabric of daily life. Yet, for all the progress made, the evolution of identity systems is far from complete. The challenges of interoperability, security, and privacy remain. The scientific understanding of identity recognition continues to deepen, with new discoveries about the ways humans and machines perceive and distinguish individuals. And as the meanings and markers of identity shift in society, moving from tradition and family ties to more dialogical and self-created notions, the systems that support identity must adapt as well. What remains clear is that identity, in all its forms, is foundational. It is the key to participation in modern life, the basis for trust in both physical and digital realms, and the starting point for understanding the complex architectures that now underpin our interconnected world. The journey from ancient tattoos to blockchain ledgers is ongoing, driven by the same enduring need to know, with confidence, who stands before us, whether in person, on paper, or across the digital divide. Identity systems today are built on intricate mechanisms and a rich landscape of technologies, each designed to answer the enduring question, who are you? At the heart of these systems are scientific approaches and technological tools that balance security, convenience, and privacy. As the digital world expands, the need for reliable ways to verify and authenticate identity grows alongside the increasing complexity of threats and regulatory demands. The scientific methods behind these systems are often invisible, yet their impact is deeply felt in daily life. From the moment a face unlocks a smartphone, to the instant a fingerprint grants access to a bank account, to the background checks that quietly authenticate a new user on a digital platform. Modern identity systems rely heavily on biometrics, where biology meets technology. Biometrics harness unique biological and behavioral characteristics, attributes so distinct that, in theory, no two people should ever be confused. These markers include not just fingerprints and facial features, but also deoxyribonucleic acid, ear geometry, iris and retina patterns, scleral vein patterns, palm prints, voice, gait, and cardiac signatures. Each feature offers its own blend of uniqueness, permanence, and resistance to forgery, making them ideal for robust identity verification. Biometric identity verification works by capturing these distinctive traits and converting them into digital templates. For example, when you press your finger against a scanner, the device captures the intricate whorls and ridges of your fingerprint, translates them into a mathematical representation, and stores this data securely. Later, when you attempt to authenticate, the system compares your new scan against the stored template. If the details align within a specified margin, access is granted. This seemingly instant process is powered by advanced algorithms and statistical models designed to minimize both false accepts and false rejects. Fingerprint scanners are the most common biometric authentication technology, followed by face and iris recognition. Facial recognition systems analyze the geometric structure of the face, the distance between the eyes, the curve of the jaw, the shape of the cheekbones. Iris scanners focus on the complex patterns in the colored part of the eye, patterns that remain stable throughout a person's life and are exceedingly difficult to replicate. The adoption of these technologies has expanded far beyond law enforcement, appearing in everything from smartphones and laptops to banking applications and social media logins. They offer not only heightened security but also a level of convenience that users have quickly come to expect. Yet biometrics are only one piece of the puzzle. Digital identity today is a constellation of data attributes and credentials, usernames and passwords certainly, but also biometrics, cryptographic keys, and other digital artifacts. Each element plays a role in representing individuals, organizations, or even devices in the sprawling digital ecosystem. The security of such systems depends on a series of protocols and verification steps, designed to ensure that only legitimate users gain access to sensitive information or services. A typical digital identity verification process is layered and methodical. It begins with identification, asserting who you claim to be, perhaps by presenting a document or entering a username. This is followed by authentication, the act of proving that claim, often through a password, a biometric scan, or a possession like a smart card. Finally comes authorization, confirming what the authenticated user is allowed to do within a system. Each step is distinct and serves a specific purpose. Identification narrows down potential matches, authentication provides evidence, and authorization grants or denies access. These processes are not arbitrary. They are governed by rigorous standards and guidelines. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, publishes the special publication 863 Digital Identity Guidelines, which outline best practices for enrollment, identity proofing, authentication, and federation. These guidelines help organizations build systems that are secure, reliable, and interoperable across diverse platforms and sectors. The layered approach they recommend includes document verification, biometric matching, and liveness detection measures that ensure a real, live person is present and not merely presenting a forged credential. Identity proofing, the formal process of verifying a person's claimed identity, is especially critical in regulated industries like finance and government. It involves multiple steps: verifying documents such as passports or driver's licenses, checking data against authoritative databases, and conducting biometric comparisons. Liveness detection adds another layer, using behavioral cues or sensor technologies to distinguish between a living person and a static image or recording. These multi-layered methods are essential for preventing fraud, protecting sensitive data, and complying with ever-evolving regulations. Scientific rigor underpins these technologies and methods. Evidence-based approaches, including reproducibility studies and statistical validation, are used to assess the reliability and privacy implications of identity systems. Developers and researchers employ statistical tools to measure error rates, evaluate system performance, and ensure that technologies are robust against both accidental mistakes and deliberate attacks. This commitment to scientific scrutiny is necessary, as the stakes in identity verification are high. Errors can lead to financial losses, data breaches, or even threats to personal safety. The distinction between verification and authentication is subtle but significant. Verification is the process of establishing that a person truly is who they claim to be, often at the initial point of onboarding or account creation. Authentication, by contrast, is the act of confirming that the person returning to use a service is the same one who was previously verified. Both are essential, but each serves a different role in the lifecycle of identity management. Weaknesses at either stage can open the door to fraud, identity theft, and regulatory violations. To defend against such threats, organizations are adopting real-time identity verification techniques. These systems draw on predictive models and artificial intelligence to detect anomalies, uncover synthetic identities, fabricated individuals with no real-world counterpart, and cross-reference user data with authoritative sources such as Social Security number databases. In sectors like financial services, where the cost of fraud can be immense, these tools are indispensable. They combine document authentication, biometric analysis, and data cross-referencing into a seamless, automated process that can quickly flag suspicious cases for further review. The role of biometrics in ongoing authentication is growing as well. Once used mainly to verify identity at the point of entry, biometrics now support continuous authentication, checking that the user interacting with a device or service remains the same throughout a session. This is especially relevant in high-security environments or where sensitive transactions occur. Technologies on the horizon promise even finer-grained recognition. For example, machine learning models that analyze brainwave patterns, electroencephalogram signals, or unique cardiac signatures, adding new dimensions to multi-factor authentication. Authentication protocols themselves are the backbone of secure digital interactions. Traditionally, these have relied on something you know, a password or personal identification number, something you have, a smart card or token, or something you are, a biometric trait. Increasingly, systems combine these factors for greater security. Despite these advances, many organizations still rely heavily on basic username and password combinations, a vulnerability, as stolen credentials remain the most common cause of data breaches. Comparative studies reveal clear differences in practice. Public institutions, particularly universities, often favor username and password authentication, while private institutions are more likely to deploy smart cards and personal identification numbers, reflecting varying priorities around cost, convenience, and risk tolerance. The push for interoperability and privacy has given rise to federated digital identifiers. These allow individuals to use a single identity across multiple services and organizations, streamlining access while reducing the risk of data silos and redundant credentials. In sectors like healthcare, Federated systems can improve both security and user experience, though their long-term impact is still being studied. At the cutting edge, decentralized identity models, using blockchain and distributed ledger technologies, offer the promise of user-controlled credentials where individuals manage their own identity data without relying on centralized authorities. Advanced cryptographic techniques are also making their way into identity systems. One notable example is the zero-knowledge proof, a method that allows a person to prove they possess certain information or credentials without revealing the information itself. This approach enhances privacy and security as it minimizes the exposure of sensitive data during the verification process. Such cryptographic innovations are well suited for digital environments where trust is paramount and where traditional methods may fall short. Artificial intelligence is playing an ever larger role in accelerating and automating identity verification. Artificial intelligence-driven systems analyze vast datasets in real time, spotting patterns that human analysts might miss and adapting quickly to new threat vectors. In practice, artificial intelligence powers everything from facial recognition algorithms that improve with use to predictive models that flag high-risk transactions or applications. It also enables the detection of deepfakes and other sophisticated forms of identity fraud, which are becoming more prevalent as digital manipulation tools grow more accessible. Case studies illustrate how these technologies are being deployed in the real world. In Singapore, for example, facial verification has been implemented for digital government services, demonstrating both the potential and the challenges of large-scale biometric authentication. The success of such programs depends on the careful integration of scientific methods, robust technology, and clear governance frameworks. Throughout all these advancements, the quest for privacy and user control remains central. Evidence-based evaluation, guided by reproducibility and transparent statistical analysis, is used to gauge not just the effectiveness but also the privacy impact of new identity technologies. These assessments help ensure that innovations do not come at the expense of fundamental rights and freedoms. Looking to the future, the field continues to evolve at a rapid pace. Researchers anticipate the integration of even more advanced biometrics, facial, iris, behavioral patterns, and deoxyribonucleic acid-based identification alongside decentralized identity frameworks powered by blockchain. Artificial intelligence will further enable rapid, adaptive verification, while emerging technologies like quantum computing and nanotechnology may transform the security landscape in ways that are just beginning to be imagined. Despite these advances, the fundamental challenges remain, ensuring accuracy, balancing convenience and security, protecting privacy, and building trust in a world where identity is both a personal possession and a shared social contract. The mechanisms and technologies of modern identity systems are the product of ongoing scientific inquiry and technological innovation, each new development a response to the ever-changing needs and threats of a connected world. As these systems continue to evolve, their effectiveness will depend not just on the sophistication of their mechanisms, but on their ability to adapt to new realities, safeguard individual rights, and uphold the trust that is the foundation of all identity. In the digital age, identity systems have become deeply embedded in everyday life, shaping how individuals interact with institutions, access services, and participate in society. As these systems have grown more sophisticated, their impact has become more significant, influencing not only convenience and security, but also the very concepts of representation and agency. At the heart of this transformation lies a paradox. Identity systems are designed to recognize and empower individuals, yet the process of converting complex, multifaceted humans into standardized digital records can sometimes flatten or distort the nuances of their lives. This tension is especially evident as identity systems are adopted across critical sectors such as healthcare, finance, and government. Source 20. Take the healthcare sector, where the stakes for accurate, secure, and efficient identity management are particularly high. Here, identity systems are fundamental to the trust between patient and provider, ensuring that sensitive health data is accessed only by authorized individuals and that treatment decisions rely on accurate records. Modern healthcare identity and access management solutions go beyond simple logins, employing models like role-based, identity-based, and attribute-based access control to fine-tune permissions and safeguard privacy. These systems are essential not only for compliance and safety, but also for the smooth operation of sprawling healthcare networks. Yet the complexity and fragmentation of healthcare data present ongoing challenges, as does the persistent threat of data breaches and unauthorized access. Drawing lessons from the banking sector, which has long dealt with digital identity verification, healthcare organizations are now exploring stronger authentication models, including reusable credentials and zero-knowledge proofs, cryptographic techniques that allow verification without exposing underlying personal data. Sources 47, 49, 50, 51, 45. Case studies highlight both the promise and pitfalls of digital identity in healthcare. For instance, the modernization of healthcare provider identity verification by organizations like Surescripts has enhanced the security and reliability of health information exchanges, building greater trust in the digital flow of sensitive data. Source 69. In other settings, digital IDs are increasingly used to grant patients streamlined access to medical records, support telemedicine, and improve continuity of care. Source 70. However, these advances are not without challenges. Healthcare's adoption of digital identity technologies must address unique regulatory and ethical concerns, particularly the imperative to protect patient privacy and data integrity. Sources 50-51. The sector's experience illustrates a broader truth. Effective identity management is as much about building trust and supporting inclusivity as it is about deploying the right technical tools. The financial sector has also been transformed by the rise of digital identity. Banks and payment providers depend on robust identity verification to fulfill regulatory obligations, combat fraud, and enable the seamless movement of money. Digital identity systems here are highly specialized, reflecting the sector's unique risk profile and regulatory landscape. Industry-specific identity and access management solutions are tailored to the needs of finance, where even minor lapses in authentication can have far-reaching consequences. Source 47. The use of technologies such as reusable credentials and interoperable identity frameworks is streamlining verification processes, improving user experience, and reducing the administrative burden on both customers and institutions. Sources 45-46. Yet risks remain acute. While digital identification systems improve efficiency, they also create new attack surfaces for cybercriminals and raise the specter of data breaches, which can erode trust and cause lasting harm. Source 43. Government institutions, perhaps more than any other sector, sit at the intersection of identity, citizenship, and public service. The rollout of digital identity programs has the potential to drive national growth, enhance service delivery, and promote transparency. By providing citizens with secure digital credentials, governments can open doors to a wide array of services, from social benefits to voting and beyond. The modernization of enrollment systems, as demonstrated in Michigan's Public Benefits Program, shows how digital identity can improve access and reduce administrative friction. Source 67. Yet government-led identity initiatives must navigate a host of concerns, ensuring privacy, earning public trust, and avoiding the exclusion of marginalized groups who may lack the means or documentation to participate. The question of who is represented in official identity records and who is left out remains deeply consequential. Sources 22-53. Nowhere are these stakes more visible than in humanitarian contexts. For vulnerable populations, the absence of official identification can be a barrier to accessing rights, protections, and essential services. Digital identification offers a potential lifeline, opening doors to aid, legal recognition, and economic opportunity. Source 22. However, humanitarian organizations must grapple with a unique set of challenges before investing in digital identification systems. They must consider fundamental questions about who controls the data, how privacy is protected, and whether technology might inadvertently reinforce existing inequalities or create new forms of exclusion. Source 21. The risks are not merely theoretical. Poorly designed identity systems can deepen marginalization, especially if implemented without robust safeguards or community input. Sources 43-53. Across all these domains, the central challenges confronting modern identity systems are strikingly similar. Foremost is the issue of privacy. As digital identity systems collect, store, and process ever greater amounts of personal information, the threat of data breaches and unauthorized surveillance grows. Studies have shown that digital identification systems can increase the risk of privacy threats, especially when security practices are lax or oversight is weak. Source 43. The specter of a single data breach exposing sensitive information for millions of people is a constant concern, one that has prompted calls for stronger security measures, regular audits, and transparent governance. Source 54. Closely related is the challenge of security. Modern identity systems are enticing targets for cybercriminals, who may seek to exploit vulnerabilities for financial gain, espionage, or disruption. The proliferation of digital credentials and the increasing sophistication of fraud tactics demand a continuous evolution in security practices. The future of identity management is likely to be shaped by trends such as passwordless authentication, multi-factor and biometric authentication, and the adoption of zero-trust security models, where every access request is continuously evaluated rather than relying on a single moment of verification. Sources 56, 58, 59. Yet privacy and security are only part of the equation. Inclusivity. The principle that identity systems should serve everyone, not just those with access to the latest technology or government documentation, is an equally pressing concern. Digital identification has the potential to expand access and opportunity, but it can just as easily entrench existing inequalities if not designed with care. Marginalized communities, such as undocumented migrants, refugees, or those without access to digital infrastructure, are at risk of being left behind or even actively excluded by rigid or poorly implemented identity requirements. Experts emphasize that building effective and ethical identity systems requires explicit strategies for inclusion, sustainability, and strong legal frameworks. Sources 53-55. Without these, the promise of digital identity may remain out of reach for many. The ethical challenges of balancing privacy, security, and inclusivity are not easily resolved. They demand ongoing vigilance, transparent governance, and a willingness to adapt as new risks and technologies emerge. Identity systems, by their nature, are never static. They are shaped by shifting threats, changing user expectations, and evolving social norms. This dynamism is both a source of strength and an ongoing challenge for those tasked with designing and managing identity frameworks. Source 54. Looking ahead, several scientific and technological trends are poised to reshape the landscape of identity systems. One key development is the emergence of digital identity ecosystems built around reusable credentials and privacy-preserving verification techniques. Zero-knowledge proofs, for example, allow individuals to prove their eligibility or status without disclosing unnecessary personal information, supporting both streamlined verification and enhanced privacy. Source 45. Interoperability. The ability for identity systems to work seamlessly across different organizations, sectors, and jurisdictions is also gaining traction, supported by standardized digital identity frameworks that promote security and consistency. Source 46. Biometric authentication continues to advance, with innovations in facial, voice, and behavioral biometrics promising improved accuracy and user experience. Multi-factor authentication, which combines something you know, something you have, and something you are, is becoming the norm, particularly in high-risk sectors. Source 56. As artificial intelligence becomes more deeply integrated into identity management, new possibilities and new risks emerge. Artificial intelligence can help spot fraud, detect anomalous patterns, and automate complex verification processes, but it also raises questions about fairness, transparency, and control. Sources 56, 57, 60. The concept of decentralized identity, where individuals own and control their digital credentials rather than relying on centralized authorities, is gaining momentum. Such models hold out the promise of greater user agency and privacy, but their real-world impact remains a subject of ongoing experimentation and debate. Source 51. Passwordless authentication, using biometrics or secure tokens instead of traditional passwords, is on the horizon, aiming to reduce the risks associated with stolen credentials and improve both security and usability. Sources 58, 59. The future of identity management will also need to address new types of identities, not just people, but machines, applications, and even artificial intelligences. The rise of non-human identities brings new challenges for verification, oversight, and governance. Concepts like Know Your Agent, which focus on understanding and authenticating the actions of artificial intelligence-driven systems, are expected to become increasingly relevant. Source 57. Industry experts predict that by 2026, the identity landscape will be shaped by the convergence of several forces: advanced authentication methods, industry-specific solutions, the integration of identity and cybersecurity practices, and the growing use of workflow intelligence to automate and monitor access. The lines between compliance, fraud prevention, and cybersecurity are expected to blur, driven by the need for holistic, adaptive approaches to managing identity in a complex digital world. Sources 57, 59, 60. All of this is unfolding against a backdrop of evolving threats, technological progress, and changing user expectations. The possibilities are vast, but so too are the risks. Building trustworthy, inclusive, and effective identity systems will require more than technical ingenuity. It will demand collaboration across sectors, transparent governance, and a steadfast commitment to protecting individual rights. The journey forward is not predetermined. it will be shaped, in large part, by the choices made today by policymakers, technologists, and communities alike. As the chapter closes on the current state of identity systems, what emerges most clearly is the need for balance between privacy and utility, between security and access, and between innovation and ethical stewardship. While the scientific and technological breakthroughs of recent years have opened new horizons, the essential questions remain human ones. Who gets to define identity? Who benefits from these systems, and who is left vulnerable or unseen? The answers to these questions will determine not just the future of identity management, but the shape of digital society itself.